This review of Castlevania Aria of Sorrow may contain spoilers and coarse language. If neither of those bother you, then have fun watching and enjoying this review. It's that time of the year again, where spooky things are running about and fear is in the air. Where in my case, I settled down with some good Castlevania games. Good game in point, Aria of Sorrow. Aria of Sorrow was a game so good that it reinvigorated newcomers to look into the Castlevania franchise like Symphony of the Night did in '97. Bringing us Soma Cruz and newcomers to the franchise, we get to explore Dracula's castle in what is possibly the weirdest place to put it. You'll see. So that begs the question, how did Castlevania Aria of Sorrow reinvigorate interest? What did people see in it? Well, let's find out, starting with that story. So the plot's simple. In 2035, Soma Cruz is an exchange student who is in Japan to view a solar eclipse. Upon reaching the shrine that his totally not girlfriend is at, he's sucked into the eclipse which houses Dracula's castle. I don't know either. Soma is told by Genya Arikado, wow, really hidden there guys, that he needs to explore the castle to find a way for him and his girlfriend to leave. As he progresses, he eventually runs into Yoko, who is an ally of Alucard, and is here to help Soma. Soma also runs into Graham, who believes that because he was born when Dracula died in 1999, he will inherit Dracula's powers. He'll also run into Hammer, a US Army soldier who quits his duties to open up shop. Yeah, I know. And Jay, a mysterious person who lost his memories. As Soma continues, he learns that Jay is actually Julius Belmont, the person who finally killed Dracula, and Soma has to defeat Graham to go home. He does that and they go home. Oh yeah, that's the bad ending, by the way. What actually happens is hidden in the castle are 3 hint books about souls Soma needs to have equipped. Upon doing so, Soma reveals a major plot twist that's insane and I won't tell you it. Konami has done a great job keeping it secret. And by that I mean they haven't, but I'm still gonna keep it a secret. But let's just say Soma has to find the source of all the chaos and bad in Dracula's castle, and then fails to do so and he becomes a monster. Okay, but actually, his friends cheer him on and he wins. It's a cute plot, and while stupid at times, I think that it's enough to motivate you to explore the castle. And that twist, oh man, if only you knew about the twist. Wow, you'd be blown away. This game is also very friendly on replayability, allowing you to skip cutscenes in an instant. How instant? So with that, this game certainly has a lot of fun stuff going on in it, but now we have to start talking about the gameplay. Aria of Sorrow is a Metroidvania, meaning there's a lot of exploring and a lot of searching to find some of the best gear and souls for Soma to use. Soma can jump and attack at the start, but as the game progresses, he unlocks new moves like a double jump, slide, air kick, and super fucking high jump. Soma certainly has a lot of flexibilities with these moves and can travel through the game's world very well. Because of how this game handles level design, so long as you have the move, you can go to different areas, where there are no keys or anything like that, so it has some pretty good design in that regard. Though Soma himself doesn't have the most complex areas to run around in, with flat plains and 45-degree angles as his primary source of travel. As well, Soma can level up, so he can gain more health, attack, and defense, etc. from fighting enemies. Though these enemies can give Soma status effects, such as being cursed, which drains his magic, stoned, which makes it so he can't move, and poisoned, which makes it so he does reduce damage. Soma also has a variety of different weapons, with swords, knives, spears, greatswords, you name it. Some weapons behave differently depending on the type, with bigger weapons being slow and staggering Soma, and faster weapons being cancelable but low on damage. To me, my favorite weapons are the faster ones. They don't stagger him and can be used to chain and do damage quicker, which I really like. I understand why the things that do more damage stagger Soma, but I like the fast stuff. Give me the fast stuff and give me the control. Some of these weapons have elemental attributes to them too, so it is pretty good to make sure that you still have some of them in your inventory. Let's just say even the best sword in the game may need a replacement if you fight a certain boss. There's also armors and accessories that Soma can find, which are pretty self-explanatory. Though as you progress, armors start having some extra abilities to them. It's really nice that there's so many of these because it really lets you experiment and decide what you want to go through the game with. And speaking of experimenting, that's what the soul system is all about. Soma has the power of dominance, meaning he can collect enemies' souls. When defeating an enemy, Soma has a chance to inherit its power, allowing him to use said powers as well. And yes, every enemy has a soul. There are 4 major soul categories in this game. The first are bullet souls, which are red souls that use offensive abilities, so holding up an attack will let you attack. The next are guardian souls, which come up when Soma holds the R button down. This lets some guardian use its magic powers on him. Next are passive souls, where you can only have one equipped, but they give Soma some special properties. And then there are silver souls, where Soma can have as many of them on and off as he wishes, and they give Soma brand new abilities. This is a really great idea in theory because now every player has a different experience when playing this game. But that randomness is also a double-edged sword. And one side is fucking gigantic in comparison. So say there's a soul you really want. Well, you either get it on 1 enemy kill, or in 2 hours of grinding. You think that's a joke, right? Yeah, a joke, right? Oh. The point is that because it's 100% RNG, defeating enemies can turn into grinding, but unlike regular grinding where you know that there's a level you can stop at, you just have to keep going until you get it. It's random. You don't know when you're gonna fucking stop or not. It sucks. So soul hunting, not that fun. But since soul hunting is required to get the good ending, yeah, it can get really fucking frustrating. You only need 2 souls to grind for that, but oh my god, sometimes you just wish you didn't have to hit the same enemy 15,000 times. This being a Metroidvania, a lot of the levels are made to connect from one another. This means that the game features a lot of backtracking, and it is in all honesty not too amazing. To compensate for this, Soma can use the 8 teleporters scattered around the entire castle in order for him to get around quicker. As the levels progress, they start having some level design that is tailor-made for Soma's new abilities. Platforms start being further apart when Soma can double jump, then they start being higher up when he can walk on water, and some are extremely high up where Soma needs his bat form or his mega fuck you high jump to reach it. While these abilities don't lead to super interesting parts, with the clock tower having the most interesting parts for the multitude of moving parts. There's secrets scattered about where Soma's abilities are required, and it's much more fun to search for those than to go through the levels normally. Not only that, but your curiosity is awarding you new shortcuts from older areas from the new area you just discovered. There's also the Castlevania classic of hitting every wall and hoping to God one of them breaks. I don't like this, but you don't need to worry about it. You only really need it for 100% completion. But I still don't like it. Because there's over 100 souls for Soma to get, you'd expect the enemies to have some variety. And to a degree they do, but some are just palette swaps. Though most enemies are easy to dispatch of. Well, aside from the Castlevania classic of Fleamen. The best enemies ever. With this game, the combat shines with the boss fights. These bosses are without a doubt one of the best things about this game. The beginning bosses start out very simple, but as you progress, these bosses start to become a lot more cool. Such as the Headhunter, a great Wizard of Oz reference where it replaces its own head. There's quite a variety of phases to this fight because of the different heads. Then there's Death's fight, where you have to hit his old scythe, and then when you break it, he just unzips a brand spanking new one. Then there's Julius's fight, which is by far my favorite fight in this entire game. So much so that I'm really disappointed that he's not the final boss. Julius hops around like mad and attacks using many classic Castlevania weapons, such as the Vampire Killer, the Cross, the Holy Water, and the Axe. While he hits pretty hard, he seems like a perfect capstone to the game, but he's not the final boss. The final boss itself seems unfinished, lacking any proper fighting entity. You're just fighting a thing. Plus, he's super easy, so that's not really good for a final boss. However, it doesn't really ruin the game either. The thing with earlier bosses is that they can be fun, but are simple, and this is because as you progress through the game, they start becoming regular enemies. So while they're fun to fight, you can just cream them later in the game, showing just how powerful you've become. There's some great extras for this game. One such extra is New Game Plus. This lets Soma travel back with all the souls and items he's collected. This adds tons of replayability, especially on hard mode. Then there's Julius mode, where you go through the game as Julius Belmont. He is like Soma with all the abilities unlocked at the start, so if you know where to go, you can beat this game mode pretty quickly. But man, Julius is tons of fun. Then there's the Boss Rush mode. In this mode, Soma or Julius can fight every boss in the game from beginning to end, except for Julius and the final boss. If you beat this mode within a certain time frame, Soma is rewarded with a really nice weapon. Something I would advise striving for. But you know, speaking of striving for something, with Castlevania, one thing the series always seems to strive for is attention to detail on its graphics. And goddamn did they do that. Soma's extremely well animated, even as a tiny ass Game Boy Advance sprite. This guy has such fluid animation behind him, mainly his walk cycle and attacking animations. There's also beautiful attention to detail from the backgrounds and regular sprite work. Characters have beautiful portraits that converted well from Ayami Kojima's original art. God, these portraits are so fucking good. The attention to detail is in the backgrounds too. One great part is during Julius's fight, where Julius's super powerful attack is so powerful it destroys part of the castle's bottom. That is so fucking cool. The other thing too is barely any slowdown. That's right, this game keeps running at a silky smooth 60 frames per second, and goddamn is that the good stuff. Speaking of the good stuff, that's where the audio comes in too. For the audio, I can say there's much to go off of. Sound effects have quite the punch packed into them, and I really enjoy when weapons do more damage to certain enemies. That satisfying, blood-crunching sound effect makes it awesome. Ooh, that bloody, gushy quick sound. Ooh, is it awesome. There's also quite a bit of voice acting in this game, but it's all in Japanese. However, it does sound pretty high quality even though it's on the Game Boy Advance. Then there's the music, which is a beast of its own. Now for me, I consider this some of Michihiro Yamane's weaker stuff. She's got some great songs in there, but then there's some boring ones like the chapel and the dance hall. But when she hits, she really does hit. My favorite song in the game is without a doubt the first song, Castle Corridor. This has the memorability and pizzazz as the original NES games would. But yeah, really, some of the other songs in this just... Ugh, not a fan. So, any changes that I would like to make to this game if I could? Oh, you know it. Well, again, my biggest gripe is the soul system and how it's completely random. Instead, I'd change it to be pseudo-random. Now, this may be hard with the Game Boy Advance's cartridge space, but I'm sure an array of enemies killed that's 113 entries long could probably handle that. I hope. Maybe. But regardless, what that array would do is keep track of how many enemies are killed, and upon reaching a certain limit, reward you with a soul regardless since you've finally reached that limit. This could be something like, say, Curly. You'd have to kill 50 for sure to guarantee the possibility of a soul drop. That would heavily reduce the grinding and make it so that collecting souls would be way less of a drag, since you know for sure you're going to get one eventually. But you'd still have a random playthrough and you'd only possibly learn that souls work like that on multiple playthroughs. That counter would also reset after the soul is collected too. The other thing I would do is make the final boss something actually threatening. I love the idea of the first phase, stealing your soul powers, but the second phase comes out of left field and is pretty lazy. I would instead try to do something similar to the Julius fight, but with a Nega Soma-like character. Plus, since the boss is like Soma, having him use the souls that you have equipped against you would be awesome. I would also try to up the ante with some platforming variety, like maybe some floors that rotate if you stand on them too long, or maybe some ice physics wouldn't hurt to have on a floor. I'm just saying something more interesting would be cool. Among more interesting, I'd like to have breakable walls be visible! Also, the music, it's gotta be more in your face. Some of these songs in this are just those kinds of songs that drone for quite a bit, and then you just kind of get used to them. You don't really remember them or anything like that, and that's what I don't like. Castlevania's always about its memorability. I gotta hear some of that good shit. And in all honesty, that's probably about it. So if you've noticed, there's not really that many criticisms I have for this game. Does that mean I love it? Oh, you bet your ass I do. And despite the final boss and the soul system's randomness, Aria of Sorrow is a game I constantly come back to. The characters, the environments, the gameplay, the bosses, the story, the music, this is a really, really damn swell game, with only a few problems behind it. I really, really love this game, and I hope at some point you guys get a chance to play it. I don't care how, I just hope you get a chance to play Aria of Sorrow. Because hopefully we're gonna see eye to eye on just how fun this game really is.